Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. With episode 831 of your favorite professional wrestling podcast. That's right, Getting Over is back, and it is Thursday, so you know exactly what that means. We are here to talk all things NXT and AEW, but not only that, John Cena went ahead and sat down for his first interview after his WWE retirement. He did it with none other than Cody Rhodes. The Silver King had a long drive back from his workplace on Thursday, and I was actually able to listen to the entire interview, which means we are going to break that down here on the show before we talk NXT and AEW, put a bow on this entire John Cena retrospective 2-week period that we've had here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. As we get into the show, a couple reminders, of course. First, this program
is all about Defy.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show on YouTube when you subscribe there. You can listen to full-length audio episodes and watch full-length video interviews. Again, no matter where it is on social media, follow us at Getting Overcast. As we get into this show, I did want to share just two kind of personal items that are in my head as I'm sitting down to tape here Thursday night, pretty late in the evening. It's already dark here in South Florida. First, I don't know how many of you who listen to this podcast live in Canada or have found this show, but Silver King has become relatively obsessed with a sitcom called Letterkenny, which apparently airs on Hulu/Disney Plus here in the United States. I've never had either of those before, so maybe it's just something I'm finding that all of you have watched and heard of. You're like, Silver King, how are you so late to this party? It's a 12-season show. I'm 6 seasons in. The season that I just completed had so many professional wrestling and WWE references. They also talk about Howard Stern a bunch. I mean, you want to talk about like hitting the Silver King in the feel spot. Wrestling and Howard Stern on a comedy where they're drinking beer and whiskey and fighting people and just doing really smart comedy, if we're being honest. I'm not saying it's my favorite sitcom of all time. That is Seinfeld. Nothing will ever pass that. But it is quickly moving up the ranks. And if you don't know what Letterkenny is, or if you're a Canadian, especially listen to this show and it's one of your favorites, please reach out. Let me know. I want people to talk to about this because holy crap, this is an awesome show. So Letterkenny, if you've never heard of it, go seek it out on Disney Plus or Hulu here in the United States. Crave TV apparently in Canada, different systems across the world elsewhere. I tried to watch it on a VPN through Australia to get it on Disney Plus. I couldn't. Long story short, it's just on many different places across the world. It is a 12-season sitcom. The first episode, the pilot, I don't know that I've ever laughed harder at a comedy pilot ever. That's how great it is. You will hear drops from this show, weaved throughout the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Maybe not on this episode, but certainly episodes to come in the future. I have to figure out a way to cut them all, but it will happen. And they do a great diatribe about WWE. I may play that next week. It's just really, really funny. So that was one thing. Second, Silver King is not a big coffee drinker by any means. In fact, whenever I do drink coffee, I get decaf. I don't like caffeine the way it makes me feel. I'll have it in like a Coca-Cola if I'm eating pizza or something like that, but I'm not out here drinking espresso, coffee, whatever. I like Starbucks. I know people don't like it, but for someone who's not the Seth Rollins of coffee or the Cesaro, Claudio Castagnoli of coffee, I don't necessarily need the craft coffee, whatever the case might be. So it's holiday season, okay? This is the one time of year I really look forward to indulging in those beverages. And Starbucks they stopped making the toasted white chocolate, which was the best flavor they've ever made. Toasted white mocha, excuse me. If anyone out there works for Starbucks, I'd love to understand why. So hit us up on social media at Getting Overcast. You can also email us, gettingoverpod@gmail.com. Let me know what's going on with this toasted white mocha, why it doesn't exist. And maybe I'll understand. I highly doubt it. Anyway, we got a lot of wrestling to talk about on this show. NXT and AEW are both coming up, but we are going to start with some takeaways from John Cena's first post-retirement interview, which he held with Cody Rhodes on his podcast. And I got to say, I have not really sat down and watched Cody's interviews with other people, although there's a couple names that he's interviewed I do want to see. After watching this, I'm going to tell you two things. Number one, when we do a 2-hour show, I don't want to hear peep about it being too long, because this was a 2-hour interview. It didn't need to be. It could have been 1 hour and it would have been perfectly fine. But second, he has a really nice interviewing style. And the way he conversates with, his peers, it's a really intriguing thing. So, I thought a lot of these shows were kind of contrived, WWE just creating content for this partnership they have with Fanatics just to do it. And I'm sure the Stephanie McMahon show is like that. And I imagine the Undertaker's interviews are closer to that. But if this, John Cena interview with Cody is replicated and similar to how he speaks to other talent, then I'm actually kind of interested in listening to his show. So Cody, natural speaker, talker, possibly natural interviewer as well. I found it really engaging. In terms of what John said during this interview, first, let me just state that it was better than any other interview he did prior to his retirement. He was so much more comfortable speaking with Cody. He let his guard down, told a bunch of stories, made references to stuff I actually looked up to see what he was talking about. That was pretty cool. Let me start with the negative, okay? Because I got major douche chills with Cena saying his favorite moment in wrestling. Let's just pause there. His favorite moment in wrestling, the guy's been doing it for 23 years, is CM Punk apologizing ahead of Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia this year. Now, he said this before, but for Cena to go out there and say it's his favorite moment in his entire career, being tangentially related to it because it was ahead of his match, nothing he did in or around the ring, winning a title, having a moment, whatever it is, saying it mended cultural differences, and it showed that Phil Brooks in this case was a man who, understood he was wrong and wanted to make that right. I mean, this isn't even a comment on the culture over there or, what CM Punk said or whether he should or should not have apologized. It's Cena going to bat for this and saying that it's his favorite moment of his career or one of the most memorable, or dude, just pick a great match. Summer of Punk, what you did. You could say the Punk match this year, and you also loved that he did those things. I just, again, douche chills when he said that. Anyway, the rest of the interview was great. Cena said he made brave, courageous decisions that he knew would have been controversial and bring in critical feedback during his retirement run. He said, if you're afraid to fail, it's tough to succeed. To that end, he accepted heavy criticism for WrestleMania, saying they made a concerted decision to wrestle a slow, plodding match as a means of living up to his gimmick of ruining wrestling. He stopped short of saying it didn't work, but he admitted that he understood the negative reaction to it. Cena later said, in his 23-year career, creative always changes. Stuff always happens. Injuries, metrics, fan responses. And it's not true that WWE did not have a long-term plan for his retirement. It's just that things changed for multiple different reasons. On the heel turn, he said they had to figure out a way to book something in 6 months that would normally last 2 years. He also said that it created matches against Randy Orton, CM Punk, and a second run with Cody that may not have come close to happening if he had just remained babyface the entire time. Cena believes his retirement run was beautiful, but he also said that once an artist puts their art out into the world, they no longer have control over it. And he respects that fans have formed their own opinions and takes on the way his retirement went. That said, he acknowledged that, look, the arenas were super loud every single time, and the vast majority of those appearances were met with cheers at the end. Now, he didn't mention the ones that were not met with cheers, notably his retirement, but we know why. He lost and people wanted him to win. The Brock Lesnar match, a couple other situations, WrestleMania certainly being one of them. But 36 appearances, he's basically saying, yeah, look, 30 to 33 of them, you guys were wildly cheering for me. So how bad could it have actually been? And that is completely fair as far as I'm concerned. Cena said that fans understand when plans change due to injury, but there are myriad other reasons why stuff changes, even beyond metrics and trying to make moments. He seemed to indicate that parts of his retirement run were altered and outside of the control of even the creative team, which I found interesting and certainly that makes sense. Shit happens in people's lives. You could walk out of your house and sprain an ankle, or get hit by a car, or something happens to a loved one, or you get sick. I mean, so many different things can happen where it's not public facing. You didn't get hurt during a match, and therefore fans don't know, or it doesn't get leaked by a dirt sheet, and therefore you don't know, and stuff has to change on a dime. Cena said his last toast in the locker room was a really cool experience because people in the room ranged from Haku, obviously a veteran legend, to Javon Evans. He said everyone in between, and he also said that despite all the big names you saw ringside, he said, actually, I think it was Cody that said this, gorilla position was star-studded during Cena's final match. It was packed with big names and legends and stuff. So maybe we will see that on some WWE, whether it's Unreal footage or documentary footage of John Cena's last match, because they taped this entire year and are probably going to do a documentary special on it. The explanation for his year-long character arc, it did make sense. We already knew the heel turn was not originally planned. The way Cena explained it, it seemed like the subsequent programs got turned on their heads due to his shift. The first couple and last few months appear to have gone mostly according to plan, and Cena definitely made it clear that he went out as he wanted to. Taking his last breath, going out peacefully. He specifically mentioned Obi-Wan Kenobi, as we explained on Tuesday's show, which I didn't explain. Vintage Chris Vanini explained because he knows Star Wars and I don't. But he basically said straight up, that's what I was going for. And for people who picked that up and explained it, I'll count myself in the latter category, people who explained it, not so much who picked it up initially, because how would I ever get a Star Wars reference, felt justified, and that was cool. All in all, like I said, this was a must-watch or must-listen to interview, more so than his other ones. You'll learn more about Cena's retirement here than elsewhere, and there's just a lot of interesting insight on the Cena-Rhodes relationship. I never realized they were as close back in the day before Cody left WWE than they actually were. And Cena explained that. And that was really intriguing too. So this passing of the torch from Cena to Rhodes, it certainly makes sense on the periphery because it was one big time white meat babyface, all-American guy passing the torch to another big time white meat babyface, all-American guy. But it also seems like there's a huge personal element here for both of them where Cena was not just putting over his heir apparent, but someone that was legitimately a close friend that he hadn't seen and worked with in an extremely long time, because by the time Cody came back, Cena was over in Hollywood. So that was really cool. On the subject of Cena's retirement, no fewer than 12 of you specifically asked me to discuss comments made by Jeff Jarrett over the weekend. And on one hand, we've really gone away here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast from our, deep involved rants on this show, largely because the parties who offended us the most have seriously calmed down over the last 8 months. We haven't had much to rant about. On the other hand, what Jarrett said was so ignorant and disrespectful that I understand why so many of you wanted my take. And if there is one thing that we do here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, it is service our listeners. Hey now, not that way. So Jarrett, I guess, decided to sit on it for the yearly TK gift basket. The guy jumps on Twitter after Cena's last match to say the following, quote, "Love watching movies when the superhero gets destroyed in the final scene and then dies. Even better is when my favorite sports team not only gets beat, but gives up with a smile on their face. Makes me feel good about spending time/money on the night. Creative is subjective," unquote. First, taking these comments at their face, he closes saying creative is subjective, meaning it's up to your personal taste. But he says that after dropping 3 sarcastic sentences trying to shit on his rival company. Beyond that, yes, there are plenty of movies when the hero dies at the end. Avengers Infinity War and Endgame with Iron Man, apparently Star Wars, like Chris explained Tuesday. Gladiator, Logan, Saving Private Ryan, Braveheart. I mean, do I need to keep going on here? Sports teams getting beat. Yeah, dude, that happens. Do you watch sports? How do you think Atlanta Falcons fans felt who spent thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars to go to the Super Bowl, go up 28-3 and then lose? They were dejected. You buy tickets to sporting events not knowing the outcome. You're buying those tickets generally hoping for an outcome. You don't always get it. And you know what happens to teams and coaches when they lose? They admit defeat and they explain what went wrong. Like, again, do you actually watch sports? Shit is just as heartbreaking as it is exciting. That's the entire point. The thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. That is a basic sports tenet. And guess what? It's a basic professional wrestling tenet too. So not only does this slapnuts have no legs to stand on with his comments, frankly, he's the exact wrong person to be trying to send any type of message about creative or storytelling. Jeff Jarrett was not only involved in some truly detestable creative, he was responsible for abominations that have transpired in and around the ring time and again. How many times did this numbnuts set up storylines where he or someone else was a heel with a babyface spending months overcoming obstacles, seeming like they were going to climb a mountaintop and then not pay it off, or to take the championship for himself? The guy created a storyline so he could have one of the 10 longest NWA World's Heavyweight Championship reigns in history. He's just as responsible for the LOL TNA moniker as anyone else in history. I specifically remember, this is from someone who wasn't even watching TNA at the time. I specifically remember him screwing over babyfaces like AJ Styles and Ron Killings in fashions just like this, where they got their legs cut out from under them for himself or another heel to thrive. Let's not forget, the last time we saw Jeff Jarrett on AEW TV, he cut one of the worst promos in company history, one of the worst promos in professional wrestling history this century at least, for some reason, while being booked in a world title-seeking retirement storyline, only to get pulled from the screen entirely. That's how bad it was. The guy's wrestled 3-4 times since. He's appeared on AEW TV maybe once. They never even blew off the storyline. His promo failed so miserably. Look, man, I respect Jarrett as an industry veteran. He and his family know so much more about professional wrestling than I ever will. But when it stinks like a skunk, it's generally a skunk. And this take, it was not just an effing skunk. It was transparent as hell. Jeff Jarrett, who cannot even comprehend the concept of putting someone over, is arguably the last person who should be criticizing the Cena booking. Broke a million guitars, never drew a damn dime in this industry. So with that said, hopefully you enjoyed that rant. I'd also love for you to remember that here at Getting Over,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well. That's right, for just $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. I'm trying to calm down here. You can become an official Getting Over head. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show's exclusive news analysis posts every week. Support us as we continue our show. We only have one sponsor. Everything else relies on you. Buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. All right. We got a ton to talk about. Good and bad, both for NXT and AEW. There are timestamps in the episode description. As always, you can jump around if you so choose, but I do truly hope you listen to the entire show. So starting with NXT. Javon Evans was willing to wait on Ricky Saints in the parking lot as the show opened. He actually cut a pretty good promo on social media about this. Ava tried to coax him inside, but he refused, and she had another funny off-screen quip about it. She's definitely finding her character. Better late than never. Leon Slater similarly tried to convince Evans to come inside, saying Saints may not even show up, and he needs the support for his #1 contendership match. That ultimately worked. Saints later exited a limo, entered the ring, surrounded by security guards. He got straight heat from the crowd, reminding that he beat Obafemi and that he's obsessed with being #1, which is why he had no choice but to check Evans. He refused to heed his advice and wait his turn, therefore he had to be dealt with. Saints said that he is sick of being passed over, and now he will do whatever is necessary to get what he wants. Ricky laughed at the idea of Javon being on his level, saying the dude can't even win a title, and he'll easily prove that Evans is a class way below him. Everyone else is chasing clout. Meanwhile, he's a real superstar. He's debonair, suave, etc. Saints was saying no one else will do what's necessary to take the top spot and stay there, when Evans all of a sudden pulled his legs out from under him in a sneak attack, starting a pull-apart brawl. Ricky chucked Javon into the steel steps, mocked the 6'7" stuff, and did Rochambeau through the damn announce table, which was his best execution of that move in his entire NXT career to this point. Man, oh man, Saints is eons better as a heel than a face. I mean, we already knew that from his time in AEW, but he just reminded us of that here. The confidence was at another level. You can feel the energy radiating off of him when he's able to go on a tear promo-wise. It was tough to poke holes in anything he was really saying. And they set up this feud nicely last week by the way Saints handled himself in that, opening segment. Evans' attack was strong, and him needing to overcome adversity from the onset of this feud, that's a huge positive. This does feel like it's being booked as we, or at least I, hoped, with a few massive months ahead, Javon needing to overcome one obstacle after another in order to eventually become NXT champion. So we had Joe Hendry, Miles Bourne, Leon Slater, and Deion Lennox for that number one contendership. This main evented. Slater took a spike DDT from Hendry, who seemed to be the crowd favorite. Slater came back with a handspring back elbow, apron cannonball on Hendry, plus a couple high-risk moves on Lennox. Then he did a pendulum move outside and immediately sold his left knee, but Slater continued in the match and ate a doomsday device. Hendry and Bourne tried a double superplex with Slater climbing atop the ring post and flipping over them, landing for a double powerbomb and 3 separate near falls. Slater then stopped a Hendry run with Utopia and hit a swanton bomb halfway into the ring, which was insane. Hendry hit 2 fallaway slams and an Olympic slam plus standing ovation on Bourne, only for Slater to fly in, get caught, thrown outside into Lennox. Bourne respawned, but Hendry hit a spinning fireman's carry slam and started brawling with Lennox down the ramp. Slater took advantage with a swanton 450 for the win. Oba confronted after the bell on the ramp, and Tony D'Angelo was watching from atop the crowd in the shadows. This was entirely the right call, having Slater win. He was the clear standout of the match, and putting him over these guys, that's a major statement by WWE, considering that this was basically their entire men's division in one match. There's almost certainly going to be a jealousy layer added with Javon angry that his boy is getting this opportunity. Meanwhile, he has to wait. Or if not jealousy, then at least some intrigue from them being the 2 number 1 contenders, with Saints also interfering, and then D'Angelo waiting, and Femi obviously as champion. There's a lot of directions NXT can go with these guys. It's probably the most intriguing that this title picture has been in quite some time, though I have absolutely no idea what they are trying to do with Tony D. None whatsoever. I would be remiss not to point out that Lennox is a hell of a seller. He really stood out alongside Slater, who similarly sold his ass off. Both were leagues ahead of Bourne, and while Hendry was obviously solid, he's just not really flashing for me. I got to be candid about that. This was a somewhat surprising, at least I would say,
Banger.
4 stars A-, super entertaining main event. North American Championship, Blake Monroe defending against Thea Hale. You can say what you will about how Blake has been booked since she started in NXT. Her presentation is a 10 out of 10 right now. Meanwhile, Thea, I have no idea what she is supposed to be these days. They got rid of that voiceover beginning to her theme. Huge improvement, but nevertheless, it's what is this girl supposed to be? Monroe did an armbar over the ropes immediately after the commercial break. Hale did a quick senton off the ropes for an extremely awkward 1-2-3, where the referee counted the fall and signaled to the timekeeper, but the bell didn't ring. So he confirmed it. Yeah, 1-2-3, the match is over, and then the bell finally rang. Blake's music played, they stopped it, and then Thea's music played. Thea and Blake were both shocked. Replay showed that Monroe lifted her arm, but it didn't come off the mat or even get raised at all until 3.1, 3.2, something like that. And this was clearly a call it in the ring situation. It looked like Thea legitimately knocked the wind out of Blake when she landed on her torso, because she did that senton, she was just springing on the ropes, almost doing Ultimate Warrior, and just flung herself back. And whatever energy, she had got just transferred right to Monroe's midsection. Blake was stunned. It clearly took her a few seconds to gather herself. By then, it was too late. Now, it's possible the finish was supposed to be a crucifix counter out of the senton, just given the way Thea was leaning backward, but it's really tough to tell. Might have gone a few more minutes after that. NXT had a 2-episode taping set for Wednesday, so they had the opportunity to easily switch the strap back. They could also throw the match on New Year's Evil, push off another match that was planned for the show instead. I did not read spoilers for NXT. I am not going to read spoilers for NXT, so all I can do right now is speculate. If I had to guess, they will save it for New Year's Evil, gives them more time to figure out where that's going. It's not the end of the world, though, okay? Hale getting to carry the strap even for a week or two, it's kind of cool. Lucking her way into the title, it's fitting of her character. And Blake quickly becoming a 2-time champion, that plays as well. Especially if it leads to her becoming even crazier, blaming Ava for screwing her over, stuff like that. Shawn Michaels and the NXT creative team they can absolutely make this work. Ultimately, nobody did anything wrong. The referee called it as he saw it. But you want to know what was disgusting? So we posted about this on Twitter and Blue Sky. The Blue Sky account got a lot of traction, and basically every quote tweet or quote post, was from people celebrating that something bad happened to Mariah May. Either a botch or her getting injured. Many even post the Tony Storm line to mock her because she dared leave AEW to follow her dream and go to WWE. This was pretty freaking embarrassing and absurdly tribal when the woman clearly got hurt in the match. If you want to make fun of a wrestler making a mistake, that is fine. Making fun of someone who was unable to get to her spot due to injury is disgusting. People talking about shit like this not happening in decades, not factual. Do you not remember Jon Moxley getting injured and Rey Fenix winning? I think it was the AEW International title, All Atlantic, whichever the hell one it was at the time, winning that title suddenly on like a collision or something. It's the only time either Lucha Brother got a singles title in AEW, and it got flipped right back because shit happens. Mistakes are made sometimes. Laugh when it's silly and no one gets hurt. Be considerate when bad things happen. Beyond that, look, people may have different definitions, but for the record, a botch, to me, is a mistake made by a performer or a failed sequence. Someone getting the wind knocked out of them or getting concussed or injured on a normal move that is not executed incorrectly, and the referee just doing his job, that's not a botch. It's normal course of business. Sometimes shit happens. There are plenty of botches every single week on TV, whether it's WWE main roster, NXT, AEW. Botches happen because no one's perfect. NFL receivers drop passes that land right in their hands. Those are botches. But someone getting hurt on a play that in this case is scripted, and maybe it wasn't supposed to go that way, obviously, but someone getting hurt and then needing to make a change or a change happening because someone got hurt and is not able to fulfill what they need to do, and the move was executed properly, like there was nothing wrong, it just was happenstance. That's not a botch, it's just unfortunate. And that's what happened here. It was unfortunate. Apropos of nothing else, Becky Lynch has been trying to tell you all for weeks that WWE referees are corrupt. Hopefully now you all see it. She tells no lies. Thea cut a crying segment on social media after her title win. This is while NXT is live. And about an hour later, still on TV, she was back on screen in a segment that was clearly unplanned, gripping the title while being overexcited about picking up the strap. Jordynne Grace came through depressed, saying it looks like Hale has figured it out faster than she has. Monroe then interrupted, complaining that she didn't actually lose the title and it was the worst night of her life. I cannot even imagine, let's say SmackDown, putting a segment like this together live during a show. Like, that is how good the NXT creative team is, even operating on the fly. This was short. It took something that was clearly unplanned, made it seem like it was part of the program. All three of them did well, and tying Thea's win into Jordynne's character arc of failing time and again and doing that on a whim, it's kind of genius. Like, real good job by them. Ethan Page hit the ring, saying it's pathetic how fans care more about their favorite wrestler quitting his job and top champions crying about it than him getting attacked by Tony D and generally being treated like shit. Stacks answered instead of Tony D carrying the TNA International Championship that he apparently won last week. Stacks said his girlfriend wants more gold, which is why he was there to put them in contention for the AAA Mixed Tag Team Championships. Then Moose entered. Pissed off that another NXT talent is holding a TNA title, he turned it, though, saying he's focused on Page and returning the favor by taking the North American Championship. Moose informed that Ava and Santino Marella signed off. The match is coming in 2 weeks, and they did a quick brawl to end it. Page was rolling hot as usual at his promo. I really struggled to care about anything that happened afterward. Stacks and Ariana Grande, Ariana Grace. My fault. They've barely had screen time to develop as an interesting duo. And Moose literally just came out of nowhere when NXT should be focused on creating opportunities for its own wrestlers. I'd probably feel different if I was someone with a long history of TNA watching and I loved Moose or whatever. The only Moose I love is my dog. Let me get that clear. But this was just meh for me. Later backstage, Page complained to Ava in front of Zeruko when Chelsea Green and Alba Fire joined him in his bitch fest, for lack of a better term. Ava decided that each of them would defend their singles titles, Page against Moose and Green against Sol Ruka inside the next 2 weeks based on Sol's win over Bayley. And you know what? Fair enough. She beat a main roster talent, a multi-time world champion. She can get a U.S. championship match. That's totally fine. I'm not sure Ava has the power to book a SmackDown title match on NXT, but you know what? I'm interested in seeing the bout. The one part that's cool about the way Paige is being booked is how many different people he has fought as North American champion. I could see them strapping up Moose if Ethan is getting the call for SmackDown, and maybe that's exactly what they do. But it just doesn't feel like it's been built to the point where he's ready to lose the title. Shiloh Hill was talking and saying nothing to someone named Skylar Ray, who I guess is the female LFG winner, clearly not getting an equal opportunity on TV. If so, Stax and Grace came by talking about Moose, which led to Hill talking about the literal animal, a moose. The heels were rude coming back, leading to a mixed tag team challenge for next week, and that's fair enough too. Decent way for Stax and Ariana to get a win before they contend for the mixed titles. The Culling came across a doll of Nico Vance on a stool in their den. That freaked him out, but Izzy Dame insisted they already took care of their problem and he need not worry about it. Izzy later found a Shawn Spears doll in her locker, with Lola Vice deciding to shit-talk her on Tatum Paxley's behalf. Then Vice went up to Kalani Jordan, who was unpacking her box because she was moving back into the locker room. Lonnie was angry that Lola led her eviction, claiming jealousy over Lonnie being the best crossover star in the company. Lola laughed at her being a gymnast, saying it's nothing compared to MMA. The acting between them was so rough. We're talking like C-movie level acting. Lonnie was a little better. Vice is so inauthentic when she speaks. I have no idea how she can overcome that. We had Ren Sinclair and Kendall Gray against Fallon Henley and Lainey Reed. Kendall did a really cool pendulum double stomp. I've never seen that. Lainey then caught her running with an inverted Uranagi into the top turnbuckle, which also was cool. Ren got like 5 seconds of offense before JC Jane distracted, while Gray had Henley in an armbar. Sinclair splashed the other heels ringside as Gray dropped Henley back into an armbar, winning via submission as Fallon screamed bloody murder while in this armbar. What a sell by her. Holy crap. Another match in which Ren, to me, it felt like hardly got to wrestle. Another match in which Fallon took a fall when a less experienced and less talented member of her own team could have done exactly the same. I do not understand the way in which either of them are booked, Ren and Fallon, nor do I understand why a heel side with a numbers advantage was defeated so easily by a couple relative neophytes. Is Ren QCC not expanding? Do they not need help against a triumvirate of heels? There are still 2 more shows until New Year's Evil. One would think the build would start with the faces needing to overcome the numbers adversity and then even out the sides. The work we did get here was solid, with Kendall, Ren, and Fallon all standing out. All 3 of them are better than the bottom portion of the main roster women's division, but it only went 10 minutes, and a large portion of it did happen during commercial break. Hank and Tank fought Out the Mud. For some reason, these guys are just called OTM now, as if there's a problem with their full name. I like Out the Mud. It's pretty solid. The faces were basically unchanged after their excursion to Japan, ultimately winning with a counter inside cradle. Tank did hit a swanton bomb at one point. That was pretty nice for a guy his size. The tag team division, it is dead in the water right now. It needs major help. OTM has some flash. They need work. I don't know if they're any better in the ring. Hank and Tank, they can go like hosses. Their act is tired. They have no shine as a team. There's basically no one else except these 2 teams in Dark State. That is dire straits. Rhyme not intended. Jasper Troy backstage learned there would be a new speed tournament. He said destruction was guaranteed for the winner. Please stop putting speed on NXT for the love of all that is holy in this world.
I don't get it. I'm sorry. I don't get it.
And that wraps up NXT this week. A really good show. Like, at the base level of that term, good, that describes it. There was a lot to write home about. Super entertaining 2 hours. Obviously, there were problems, as I outlined, and I'm concerned, going into these 2 holiday tapings, because tape shows usually don't hit as well as live shows do. I'm concerned for NXT the next 2 weeks. I'm concerned for AEW. I'm concerned for the WWE main roster as well. This is the time of year where the creative just usually falls apart. They don't do enough, and they just usually run long matches with weak explanations and shit. Let's see if any of them surprise us. Again, I have not read any of the booking, so we will see what happens over the ensuing few weeks. But I do need to note, before we move on to AEW, that look, whether it is Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, or premium live events that you want to watch on Netflix, I am all in with NordVPN. It's easy to set up. It's a drastically better viewing experience. You get high quality streams and commercial-free shows. All you have to do is sign up at nordvpn.com/gettingover, open the app, quick connect to another country like Canada, open Netflix, and watch this show. NordVPN also allows you to get around online censorship or surveillance, protect your private data when web browsing, and avoid online threats. Plus, one NordVPN account can be used on 10 different devices. So get the best discount from NordVPN. Go to nordvpn.com/gettingover. Our link will give you 4 extra free months off the 2-year plan. And there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. So improve your WWE viewing, save some money, browse safer online, and get the best discount for the best VPN at nordvpn.com/gettingover. We love having NordVPN as the official singular sponsor of your boys right here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Moving over to AEW. They ran a week of shows in the United Kingdom. Collision was in Cardiff, Wales, while a 3-hour Dynamite was in Manchester, England. It was the best Collision in months, probably one of the best of 2025. One of the main reasons why is because there were 3 relevant non-tournament matches, and both tournament matches banged to different degrees. This is what I have been talking about for years now. You put stuff that matters on the show, and it can be enjoyable. Dynamite was quality as well. The 3rd hour was dreadful. The first 2 were good. It's like AEW understood the assignment. They're in Europe. We have people actually showing up to the shows in significant numbers. Let's put on really high-quality programs. And then, hour 3 of Dynamite. Who cares? No one's watching it on TV anyway. Like, that's the way it came across. The relevancy grade this week was really tough to determine because there were 2 different matches that perhaps deserved partial credit, but maybe they didn't. So you could say 5 out of 8 or 7 of 8. Either way, way better than usual. But being able to just throw 6 Continental Classic matches on these cards, it overcomes a lot of AEW's regular booking issues. Anyway, let's get into it. When I say the word Collision, I'm talking about last Saturday's show, Dynamite, this Wednesday show. I'm not going to separate Dynamite and Collision because it was 2 hours and then 1 hour. It was a 3-hour block. It was Raw is War, not Raw on the War Zone. If we did the show back then, we would have just called it Raw is War. Same idea. On Collision, Swerve Strickland beat Josh Alexander to open the show. It was technically not a number 1 contendership, but they built it that way last week. Alexander missed a flying knee drop, eating a leaping flatliner and house call, which knocked dude's headgear off. That was awesome. They unfortunately messed up the JML driver, but it hardly mattered. Nice match. Swerve is not only looking healthy, but swole as hell. And after the match, he just declared himself the number 1 contender. On Dynamite, it was apparently decided that Samoa Joe would defend the AEW championship in a triple threat with Swerve and Hangman Page. So they did a contract signing. Joe said nothing while signing. Swerve reiterated he's coming after the title, not any one man, suggesting he and Hangman have a weird mutual respect now. He promised to take the title from Joe, just like he did last time. The promo was energetic and passionate, but he was kind of all over the place. Page reminded that they were all on the same side just months ago, but now Joe is worse than the Death Riders. Really, Cowboy? Really? He's worse than a group that asphyxiated Bryan Danielson and ran roughshod over the company for a year? That is quite an exaggeration, buddy. Anyway, Hangman said Joe would be remembered as a piece of shit and guaranteed that he would not walk out of World's End with a title because he and Swerve would see to it that one of them came out the winner. After Page signed, the lights went out and MJF returned, getting a tremendous pop. He looked much better physically, not as blown up as he was in the recent past, at least. Hysterically, though, this dude had an insane hair transplant. I mean, we're talking 3 times as much hair as he had previously. Way thicker, way darker. You couldn't help but stare at it. It looked so different. And as you're watching the promo and trying to concentrate on his words, you're looking at that helmet of a head and you're like, what's real? What's fake? Why is it so thick? It was so freaking distracting. It was like the John Cena Turkish hair transplant, doubled or maybe tripled. Anyway, MJF immediately entered the ring, signed the contract for his guaranteed world championship chance that he had earned, I want to say in a casino gauntlet match. That created a 4-way rather than a triple threat. He explained that he would have taken a shortcut with his title shot in the past, but since Hangman called him a coward previously, he wanted to prove the opposite and take on 3 challengers. That way, no one had any excuses. MJF also said he wanted to fight Joe specifically at World's End as retribution for taking his title and changing fan sentiment towards him. Not that he cares about the fans, but his legacy is important to him, and ultimately the fans control that to a degree. MJF then compared Swerve to P. Diddy, which, yeah, that is a big time yikes.
Well, that was a disaster. What the hell was that? What was that, huh? This is unacceptable.
completely unnecessary. Then he talked about parting with Swerve on the Indies. They used to wrestle together and stuff. MJF going to AEW, Swerve going to, long pause, WWE, which got booed. Then he said, quote, "It's a perfectly good company," which also got booed. But Swerve didn't have a great run other than twerking for top dollar. He gave Swerve credit for succeeding in AEW to a lesser way than him, saying it's MJF's house and rent is due. Okay, let's break this down in a few parts. The opening promo with the three main competitors, bunch of nothing. Typical stuff from Joe and Swerve, typical try-hard promo from Hangman. But if you want to talk about raising the rent, that's exactly what happened when MJF returned. Injected an energy into this segment and the overall product that people claim has been there this year for AEW. In reality, it only has been in spurts, and it has sorely been missing recently. MJF was obviously on point with his promo, tearing each guy down with gusto. It did make the rest of them look rather pathetic that they had no answer to anything he said. They let this relative pipsqueak, from a size perspective, interrupt their segment and shit all over each of them with no response whatsoever. I want to say there were 5 dudes against MJF in the ring. Basically, none of them talked back. Joe and Swerve kind of did briefly, but not really. And none of them tried to attack him. And you had a heel group in the ring, and they just, didn't do shit. In terms of the WWE mention, it actually fit within the story MJF was telling, but let's not get this twisted. He chose to tell that story so he could do another tongue-in-cheek WWE remark, thinking that shit is still edgy like it's 2022. Just another chance for AEW to shade WWE. My frustration with MJF is that he simply has not evolved. The one time he did something different was the storyline with Adam Cole. But as soon as that ended, he's basically been the same dude that he was before. His confidence and conviction, it allows him to stand out from the pack. But how many times have we seen this? Hey, Seabiscuit. Hey, Sean. Samoa Joe, Sloppy Joe. Like, it's the same thing over and over.
It's the same thing over and over and over. It's like missionary position every single night.
So all in all, a successful long segment. It got me far more excited for the World's End main event than I would have been otherwise. I just wish MJF came back with more than a new look, but actually a refreshed gimmick, cadence, what have you. I'm not expecting him to change as a person or as a wrestler, but he came back. It's like, oh yeah, I've heard that promo before. And that really should not be the case. On Collision, Ricochet cut the same backstage promo he did the last couple of weeks about being national champion, adding that he would be competing in the Dynamite Diamond Battle Royal on Wednesday. There was a video package that followed featuring a few guys saying they would be in the match. MVP randomly announced during this that Bobby Lashley is injured and Shelton Benjamin would be competing. The audio balance of this video was way off, and the names they used lacked massively. I was like, they got to have way better names in this match. Well, got bad news for you.
No.
On Dynamite, Bandito and Ricochet won the Dynamite Diamond Ring Battle Royal, which was awful. Straight awful. First of all, it was 12 people for a Battle Royal, including tag team wrestlers and jobbers. This may have been the worst Battle Royal in company history. This may have been the worst Battle Royal put on by WWE, AEW, New Japan, CMLL, AAA, any major company, like since the pandemic at least, maybe the century. I don't know. It was terrible. This match was terrible. I can't put it in any other way. But Bandito and Ricochet, they'll fight one-on-one. That will obviously be incredible. So at the end of the day, it resulted in something cool. But yeah, this didn't really work at all. And I got to tell you, they probably should have retired the concept of the diamond ring years ago. But especially now, if MJF wasn't going to win it again, because he's the only person to hold it in AEW's entire history. And also, if Ricochet's the national champion and MJF isn't going to keep the ring, then isn't Bandito like the obvious winner of the Dynamite Diamond Ring? Can you give that to a babyface? Maybe Ricochet wins it. Maybe I'm wrong. All right, Continental Classic. Let's run through all of these matches. Claudio Castagnoli and Konosuke Takeshita fought to a 20-minute time limit draw. This was a sensible result considering they are respectively the CMLL and IWGP heavyweight champions. Putting one over the other would not have made much sense for those companies. Claudio ate a pump knee for a false finish, beating a count ringside. Then he avoided Raging Fire, basically hit a Styles Clash version of his neutralizer as time ran out. They were easily separated by 3 referees when trying to brawl after the bell. That was weak and unnecessary, but the match was great. Best of the week in AEW, 4.25 stars and an A. This alone made watching Collision worthwhile. Mike Bailey beat his partner, Kevin Knight. It was cool that they wore matching gear. Nice touch. There was a nice running Spanish fly and cover reversal. They did the Ricochet Logan Paul double springboard spot, except they just touched shoulders. Knight hit a coast-to-coast coming back. Speedball got double knees up on the UFO, hit a bunch of kicks, completely missed Ultimate Weapon, and ultimately won with an awesome cross-legged driver off the ropes, which really should be his finisher. Love that move. Nice match, not much selling, 4 stars, A-. Kyle Fletcher backstage on Collision cut a promo on bringing it to Pac, even though Don Callis' family and Death Riders have an unspoken agreement. Is that really an issue? When faction members have twice fought one another already in the tournament, it seems kind of irrelevant to point out that our factions have an agreement of some kind. Pac responded saying Fletcher may have brilliant matches. He's basically about to fight someone who will beat the shit out of him. To my utter shock, Pac's promo was better than Fletcher's. He was much more believable comparatively. John Moxley beat Roderick Strong with Paradigm Shift and Death Rider in succession at the end of a damn fine match. Strong show opener on Dynamite. While it did feel a little bit long, the way Mox has been booked recently, he shouldn't be winning anything easily. So it fit within the story. And funny enough, Roddy stays losing no matter who he fights. 4 stars, A-. Mox later cut a promo saying he loved how the Continental Classic tests you. And no matter how it turns out, he wants everyone to know he's left it all out there. Pac beat Kyle Fletcher. Pac kicked out of the Brainbuster finisher and did a thankfully very careful Avalanche Poison Rana, adding Black Arrow for the squeaky clean victory. This was Pac's best singles match since he fought Will Ospreay last year. This was not nearly as good as that, don't get me wrong, but it was his best match in a year. 4 stars, A-. Orange Cassidy beat Mascara Dorada. Hysterical. They're basically using this guy to put over AEW dudes, except for that one match where they set up a CMLL title match against Claudio. This was the worst Continental Classic match of the week by a significant margin, but that really speaks more to the quality of the rest of them than this match being bad. It wasn't bad. It just was the worst of the bunch. On Dynamite, the Elite beat Takeshita, Kazuchika Okada, and Hechicero in that $1 million match. I couldn't help but laugh thinking about how money was basically being recycled here. It felt like Matt Jackson basically worked the whole match. Omega and Okada briefly stood off. The Young Bucks did a cool German suplex sunset flip powerbomb on Takeshita. Hechicero obviously took the L, eating a triple superkick V-trigger and assisted One-Winged Angel. Okada and Takeshita attacked the Bucks after the bell. I guess they were trying to do a one-upsmanship. Then they shoved each other despite getting along all match. Omega swung at them with a huge broom after they were already out of the ring. Callis was going to steal the money, but he just left it in the ring and the referee grabbed it. The end of this was an absolute mess. It took a hot finish and just reduced the energy significantly. If you want to do a shoving match on the top of the stage, arguing after you lost, fine. Going back in the ring and doing all of this, it was so stupid. But this was very much a New Japan 6-man. Not my style at all. Stupid money stipulation. The right side won for the story they're telling. I'm into Okada Takeshita. The Elite stuff is so passé. My question is, if they're not doing Okada Takeshita at Wrestle Kingdom, when the hell are they going to do it? On Collision, Chris Statlander and Jamie Hayter beat the Sisters of Sin. Mediocre match that was built through a save last week. Hayter basically told Stat she wanted to challenge for the title after the bell. Off mic, she did this, by the way. Even though they worked well as teammates, they walked out together. Thekla watched from a suite, even though her teammates were literally in the match, and she could have been ringside the entire time. Is she better than them or something? Like, why wouldn't she be down there? Stat and Hayter backstage agreed to fight at World's End. Hayter has won 5 straight singles matches in 9 of 10, her lone loss being to Mercedes. So she is certainly a deserving challenger. Not always the case in this division, so credit where it's due. But this basically has no storyline outside of I want to fight you. Okay, let's fight. On Collision, Tony Storm and Mina Shirakawa decided to attend a Babes of Wrath championship toast. The champions rambled for a while and told a story about fighting each other back in the day for the 3rd or 4th time they've told it. Storm got the soccer-style chants, claiming it was important that they shook their tits in the title match. Mercedes Moné interrupted, saying everyone's a loser and you can't do a championship celebration without her. She had a really good line about Wales not being a real country, so the faces mocked her for not having any friends. She decided to get 3 random partners to fight them on Dynamite, and then Tony called her a slut tart. Generational promo work by Tony Storm. Tits, slut. Great work. Extremely rough segment. What exactly am I supposed to care about here? On Dynamite, Mercedes Athena, Megan Bayne, and Marina Shafir beat Babes of Wrath and Timeless Love Bombs. I may be wrong, but between the Monet promo on Collision and this match, I don't believe her side was ever actually announced. Also, for someone who doesn't have any friends, pretty easy for her to find friends who not only work together well, but beat the babyfaces who are actually friends. The match finished with Willow eating an O-face from Athena before Mercedes covered her for the fall. Nightingale then immediately popped up as if nothing had happened to her. She completely no-sold it. This was proof positive that AEW just does not care about the women's division when they put so much time and effort into these 2 shows only when it came to the men. This was sloppy. The stuff between Storm and Shirakawa is frankly ridiculous. The match had no meaning or purpose, and Willow, in the span of 30 seconds, went from looking awesome, pouncing Mercedes out of her shoes, to being defeated as a new champion and not selling the finish like a total neophyte. Really, Mina could not have taken the fall here. Like, we can't do that. Now, look, they were setting up a tag team title match. Mercedes and Athena challenged for it at World's End. Monet then randomly offered to put her British titles on the line, didn't specify a challenger. What a way to build that match. Come on, like, that's lazy as shit. So they're going to do a tag team title match at World's End, but why don't you have her like win a one-on-one match against them? You won an 8-man tag with people who are not even close to being involved in this, and now you get a title match? Like, is that really how we're booking this women's tag team division? That, by the way, just started? That's how we're booking it already? Lazy like that? Come on. On Dynamite, Hayter beat Isla Dawn in a truly bad match. 3-hour Dynamite on Wednesday. They couldn't be bothered to build 2 strong women's storylines, let alone one storyline. We got like 50% of one. Triangle of Madness attacked after the bell. Thekla lashed at Hayter with a belt, so Stat saved, and they completely screwed up a friendly fire spot that looked really rough as hell, ending with Hayter's finisher hitting Stat instead of the heels. It's strange that this is being booked like a triple threat with Thekla, even though it's a one-on-one match that's happening in 10, 11, 9 days, whatever it is now. On Collision, the TNT Championship, Mark Briscoe retained over Daniel Garcia in the main event. Marina Shafir got ejected late for grabbing Briscoe's leg. That distraction allowed Wheeler Yuta to low blow Mark and run away. But even after a Garcia pile driver, so low blow, pile driver, he kicked out at 2.9 and then won with Jay Driller. Got a great pop from the crowd because Briscoe remains insanely over. Garcia is a total loser. The match was nothing to write home about either. And lastly, on Dynamite, Tag Team Championships, FTR retained over Bang Bang Gang. It ended with a submission. I wish I had more to say about this. The match was really nothing. So all in all this week, I got to tell you, I kind of enjoyed Collision more than Dynamite. I'm not saying Dynamite was bad at all, but like Collision was surprisingly entertaining for a 2-hour show. And I would say the best 60, 75 minutes of Dynamite were even better than that. Not from a match quality standpoint, but just like an entertainment standpoint. If you just did that period of time and you separated it, you say, wow, what a great week for AEW. Unfortunately, there was that extra, 90 minutes to 2 hours of content that just fell short, as is pretty much normally the case. But I would compare it very equally to NXT this week. A lot of good, a little bit of a bad, and a teensy bit of ugly. And, that's okay. You're allowed to have that in your programs. It's when it's mostly bad that is problematic, and that was certainly not the case. So there's been some highly critical episodes of NXT and AEW here recently, but again, that was not the case this week. Mostly extremely enjoyable. What is that total? 3, 2, 7 hours of TV reviewed right here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Now, we will be back next week, of course, talking WWE on Tuesday. Make sure you listen to all of our John Cena content from the last week going into the long weekend. I know next week is a holiday week. We continue unabated here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Your regular episodes as normally scheduled. We're talking WWE, NXT, AEW. Maybe I'll get time to listen to the Tony Khan interview with Ariel Helwani. Maybe I'll have time to catch up on Evolve. I don't know. Let's not put too many irons in the Silver King's fire. We will be back. Same bat time, same bat channel. On the way out, allow me to remind you that here at Getting Over,
It's all about Defy.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show. When you subscribe on YouTube, you can listen to full-length audio episodes and watch full-length video interviews. And lastly, please remember,
I happen to love the number 5.
For $5 a month, $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts. Every week we have one sponsor, only one ad read per episode, and that is temporary, not permanent. This is how we keep the lights on and give you extra content. Support us as we continue to support you with this performance-enhancing audio. Buymeacoffee.com/gettingover, especially in this holiday season. Be Santa Claus for the Silver King. Try that out. All right, let's wrap up this edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. As mentioned, we will be back Tuesday talking all things WWE, but it is officially time for me to sign off and leave you with 3 final words. Bye for now.